Today, we're talking about your podcast brand and its safety. So picture this. You've built your podcast from scratch, picked the perfect name, grabbed the .com, claimed the socials, designed a killer logo, and then one day you get a letter, a cease and desist letter. Somebody else has a trademark for the show name you've chosen, and now you're being told to stop using it. What went wrong? Well, let's talk about it. Today on Legit Podcast Pro, we're going to demystify trademarks for creators because when it comes to protecting your brand, assumptions can be very dangerous. Hey there, Gordon Firemark here. I'm the podcast lawyer, and this is Legit Podcast Pro, where we help you grow a podcast that's profitable, protected, and professional. Now, today's episode is all about trademarks, not the boring legal stuff, but the real world creator-focused strategies that keep your show, your brand, and your business safe. If you're a podcaster, a YouTube creator, a digital entrepreneur of any kind, you've got a brand. But unless that brand is registered, you might not actually own it. So let's dig into this. So first things first, what can you, as a creator, trademark? Well, here's the good news. Creators have lots of options. You can trademark your podcast title, your logo or design elements, your cover art, a slogan or a tagline, the name of your production company, even the name of a recurring segment or series on your show. A trademark is what protects your brand identity in the minds of your audience. It's not the content of your episodes. That's copyright law. No, it's the name, the look, the recognizable stuff that distinguishes and helps fans find you and know it's you. So here's an example. If your podcast is called the True Crime Tapes and you've built a brand around that name, someone else could swoop in and force you to rebrand if they've got a similar name and were already there, unless you acted first. Worse, if they're in the same or similar market, like true crime, they could even claim that you're the copycat. So if you're building equity in your show's title, channel name, production company, merch line, whatever, you want to lock this stuff down. And a registered trademark is just the way to do it. So now let's talk about when. Timing. A lot of creators think, I'll register a trademark when my show gets bigger. But that's kind of putting the cart before the horse, backwards thinking. Trademark protection doesn't work retroactively. The moment someone else adopts the brand that you use or registers yours, it's like they've planted their flag on a name that you built. And yeah, if you were using the name first, then maybe you win, but it's going to cost a lot more to fight them after the fact. The better approach is to pick a strong, distinctive name right from the get-go. Run a clearance search to make sure it's available, and then file an application. If you're not quite live yet, that's okay. You can file on the basis of what we call an intent to use application. And that reserves your rights for a while so you can build up and do your launch. And of course, if you are already live, the sooner the better to get this done. Here's the point. Waiting to register is a small mistake with massive consequences. So avoid the heartache, avoid the headache, avoid the expense and the hassle by filing your trademark registration early. So what does the trademark registration actually look like? Well, here's a bird's eye view of the process. It's in the United States Patent and Trademark Office here in the US, the USPTO. First off, you got to do a search. Start with a thorough search to make sure no one else already registered or applied for a similar mark in your industry. Now, this is a crucial step, and it's where most DIYers trip it up. And in fact, there's a very comprehensive search that you can do beyond the USPTO's built-in search. And I recommend generally doing a comprehensive search just to make sure you know what you're dealing with. Second, prepare an application. In this, you need to describe, obviously, who you are, who the owner is, what is the mark, and what goods or services does it cover? And you have to provide a specimen that is evidence, proof that you're using it in interstate commerce. In order to get a trademark registration, you have to be using it. For a podcast, that might be a screenshot of your listings on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and a website image and things like that. And when you've prepared this application, then you submit it and you pay the application fee. Now, these fees vary depending on the number of classes of goods and services and the kind of filing that you're doing, but it's generally $350 per class payable to the US government. Now, we talk about classes because there are different categories. There are goods and there are services, and there are lots of different kinds of goods and different kinds of services. Now, for podcasts, we recommend generally registering in two classes. One for the goods, the downloadable audio file that gets delivered to the user's device, but also you're providing an entertainment or information or educational service, and that's the stream. So I recommend registering in two classes. And of course, if you're using a lawyer, there will be fees for each class registration there as well. So $350 to the government plus whatever your lawyer charges. Next up, the USPTO will take a look. An examining attorney reviews the application. They may accept it, or they may issue what they call an office action, sometimes called a refusal, asking for clarifications or raising their concerns about whether it qualifies for trademark protection under the law. If it's too descriptive or generic, then it won't qualify. If it's very fanciful or coined and doesn't have a different meaning outside of the use that you're using, then it's more likely to be considered distinctive and registrable. So once it's approved, your mark gets published in the USPTO's Gazette. This gives others in the world a chance to oppose it if they think it conflicts with their rights. And if no opposition is filed in the time period allotted and everything looks good, the trademark gets registered. And that's when you've got the legal right to use that circle R next to your title and the power to stop others from infringing. Now, the process typically takes anywhere from 10 to 12 months or maybe a little bit longer. So it's important to be patient and important to get started early. So let's talk money. Rough breakdown of what to expect. As I said, the government filing fees, $350 per class. Attorney's fees, if you hire help, you should expect to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, $2,000, depending on the complexity of things. And if you have multiple classes, those costs will go up. At the low end, you might be able to DIY it for the $350 without paying those third-party fees. And at the higher end, with full legal support, you might be looking at $3,000 or $4,000, including the search and the analysis and all of those kinds of things. Now, that might sound like a lot until you consider what it would cost you to rebrand your show, or worse, to fight a legal battle over your name. Consider this: your trademark becomes a business asset. It's part of your intellectual property portfolio. It's one of your most valuable assets, and it adds tremendous value to your company. If you ever do sell your podcast or build a media company that's larger or license your brand, this is money in the bank. So yes, there's a cost, but it is a smart investment. Okay, should you do it yourself or should you hire someone like me? Well, here's the deal. It is possible to do it yourself, especially if it's a simple mark that's very distinctive, coined, fanciful, and there are no competitors in the marketplace. The USPTO website does make it accessible, but you really need to be reading carefully and very detail-oriented and kind of, make sure you're not going to get hometowned by the system. Now, lawyer-assisted is best if your brand really matters to you and your risk tolerance is low, or if you've got a lot riding on the name. Hiring a lawyer will help you run a proper clearance search and analyze it, figure out whether it's going to register in the first place. It'll help you avoid those office action delays because those of us who do this kind of know how to describe the goods and services in a way that will pass muster. It'll help you respond if there are refusals or oppositions filed, and it'll set your markup for long-term success. Now, I've seen dozens and dozens of creators try to save money on the front end only to pay thousands fixing things later. So if you're not sure, start by downloading my free trademark guide at podcasttrademark.com. And hey, if this episode has you thinking, I really should get my trademark locked down, you're right. That's why I created the free guide. You will learn what makes a good trademark, how to check the availability, what mistakes to avoid, how the process works in a step-by-step manner, and you can get it all at podcasttrademark.com. And when you're ready for templates, walkthroughs, legal help, and so on, head on over to podcastlawforums.com as well. So let's zoom out now. Your podcast isn't just a show, it's a brand. It's a marketing tool for your business. It's an intellectual property asset that can evolve into broader things for your business. It could be you could be becoming a media company, a product line, a licensed brand, or it could just be valuable property that you could later sell. That's why I hammer this point home all the time inside my Easy Legal for Podcasters program and my coaching program. Legal protection is business protection. Trademarking your podcast title might feel like a legal chore, but it's actually one of the smartest moves you can make to protect what you've built and all of the opportunities that come ahead. Want to see how this fits into the bigger picture? I've got a secret video you can check out over at gordonfiremark.com/level up. It's a free lesson from inside Easy Legal for Podcasters, and it'll help you start treating your podcast like the powerful brand that it is. So listen, you have put lots of time, money, energy, creativity, and resources into building something meaningful with your show and your business. So don't let someone else swoop in and take the name, or worse, make you start over. Your brand deserves trademark protection. So start with the free guide, podcasttrademark.com. There's 2 T's in there, podcasttrademark.com. And when you're ready, I've got the tools, templates, and legal support at podcastlawforums.com. I'm Gordon Firemark, the podcast lawyer. This has been Legit Podcast Pro. Keep creating, keep growing, and hey, keep it legit.